Lincoln Mitchell is the national political correspondent for the New York Observer. He is joining us via Skype from Portland, Maine. He is there because that is where Donald Trump spent time yesterday blasting Mitt Romney at one of his rallies. Lincoln, did Mitt Romney move the needle at all yesterday?
I think he moved the needle among the people who are already moved. You know, interestingly enough, it was actually Hillary Clinton's super PAC that put out a video almost immediately showing Donald Trump really just being so laudatory, or showing Mitt Romney being so laudatory to Donald Trump when he endorsed him in 2012. I think this is Mitt Romney trying to become an elder statesman, trying to maybe create some fantasy where he's the guy that comes in and saves the party. But I don't know how much influence Romney has, who's kind of a caricature of a establishment Republican in a kind of angry Donald Trump base. I don't see where that moves people.
Now, here was what was interesting from last night's debate, aside from all of the vulgarities. Rubio not attacking Cruz, and Cruz didn't attack Rubio. Are you convinced that the establishment, the Republican establishment, which Donald Trump says he is against, is joining forces? And what happens to the party if they take the nomination away from Donald Trump?
Well, can we just pause for a moment and think about what that, I think it's a good question, but 3 years ago, the notion that Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio were the Republican establishment. I mean, this tells you, one, how far the Republican Party has moved, and also how desperate the Republican establishment is. I mean, people are almost as terrified of Ted Cruz as they are of Donald Trump. Having said that, I'm not sure that you can really speak about a coordinated effort so much about a realization on the parts of both Senators Rubio and Cruz that if we don't take Trump out now, he is going to march to the nomination. And so they realize that this kind of tactics of, oh, I have to stop Bush here and Kasich here, that's not real anymore. If Trump keeps going this way, this thing is over. And that's, I think, what we saw last night.
But if you look at the delegate count, if the other candidates stay close and they combine their delegates to nominate someone other than Trump, as the party has said, anyone other than Trump, will that work?
Well, for example, between now and the end of the primary season, if Donald Trump only needs to win 51% of the remaining delegates to be the nominee. Having said that, he hasn't won 51% so far. But another interesting statistic is this. If Kasich wins Ohio, if Rubio wins Florida, which are winner-take-all states, and if a week later Ted Cruz is probably the best candidate in Arizona, if he wins there, of the non-Florida, Arizona, Ohio delegates, Trump needs to win fully 58%. That seems like a mountain that he cannot climb. Now, the question that's not being really addressed by the Republican leadership is what happens in a convention with 40% of the delegates, at the very least, being Trump delegates. Can you force those voters to accept, I don't know, a Paul Ryan presidency? I think that would be very, very difficult. And at that point, Trump would legitimately, and we know that Trump has, shall we say, been flexible in his own words on things he said in the past. At that point, Trump could easily move to a third-party candidacy. However, for the Republican Party, losing with Paul Ryan may in fact be better than winning with Donald Trump.
Lincoln, is Donald Trump bad or good for the Democrats? Right now, there are more Republicans voting in primary elections than Democrats, and it is a wide margin. If Donald Trump gets the nomination, will he energize the Democratic base the same way that he has energized the Republican base?
I suspect he will. If you're thinking in purely tactical terms, Donald Trump is a guy that against whom Hillary Clinton wants to run. However, if I can make a sports analogy, when I'm rooting for my team in the playoffs, I don't care who they play in the World Series, because you never want to root for your opponent, because sometimes that opponent can surprise you. And you know, Democrats who are also Americans need to think about what is worse, and Marco Rubio presidency or Donald Trump presidency. So in the very short-term tactics, clearly Hillary Clinton wants to run against Donald Trump, but the stakes are much, much higher.
Let's go forward, and it doesn't have to be Donald Trump. Any Republican nominee, the way the electoral map works, if the party maintains the positions that it has, the tough stance on immigration, the tough stance on Muslims, 74% of Republican voters polled say they support a ban on Muslims coming into the country, what some consider to be an assault on women and other minorities. Can the party win the way the electoral map is stacked in states specifically like Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, et cetera?
Well, I'm not sure what it would take for the Republican Party to win New York State. So maybe we could, you know,
take that one off the map.
That's not going to happen. It is a tough demographic context for the Republican Party. Now, they knew this was coming. We didn't get surprised by the fact that the white population was dropping, but this is things the Republicans should have been adapting for. And they tried to pivot a little bit after 2012. What this primary is proving, even if we leave the Donald Trump question aside, is that the party is captive to the base, right? This looks like the Democratic Party circa 1972, when everybody knew that George McGovern couldn't win and there was no real way of stopping him. But this is only going to get worse for the Republicans. I mean, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, places like Arizona and Nevada were not really in play in a two-candidate race. Today, they very much are. If this keeps going in this direction, Ted Cruz's home state will be in play pretty soon. And it's not just a matter of getting a symbolic Latino vote and an even less than symbolic African-American vote. It's a matter of really being competitive with those voters or with somehow bumping your numbers up among white voters even more. And the only way to do that is to moderate positions on social issues, because there are a lot of voters, regardless of race or ethnicity, who like the Republicans' programs on, say, foreign policy and economics, but really are not comfortable with with their prejudiced views on LGBT people, with their views on reproductive rights, and they're losing what used to be kind of the Republican establishment. A lot of people in the Republican establishment voted for Clinton twice and Obama twice.
Lincoln Mitchell for us in Maine. Lincoln, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And